Hi, I'm the Space Quest Historian, and welcome to this week's second tutorial video on how to quickly get started using Adventure Game Studio. Because like I said in Tuesday's video, next week is Adventure Jam 2017, and actually by the time of the release of this video, that'll be tomorrow. Tomorrow is when Adventure Jam starts, and today we're going to learn how to make a first-person FMV adventure game, sort of in the style of Myst or Black Dahlia or The Seventh Guest, that kind of situation. Actually, maybe I should show you what I mean. Now, I'm actually playing this in full screen because the resolution for this game is 1280 by 720, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But that means when I test it inside AGS, just by hitting F5, and because my laptop screen is so small, then the actual play window gets sort of minimized and the aspect ratio gets a bit weird. So I thought I'd just show you what this thing will look like when it's actually done. Now this is the upper landing of my house, actually. We have a door over here that we desperately want to get inside. So when I click on it, it's going to play this little video of me trying to get inside. Oh no, the door does not open. And I can also, right click to look at the door and say, well, it's the door to my office. I want to get in there. Right. So where is the key? Well, there's a closet here. It would make sense to look in the closet. Maybe the key is in this closet. I will click on it, and we've got a little video clip of me walking over to the closet, opening it up, having a look inside at my bathrobe and all my wires and junk, and going, nah, it wasn't in there at all. So we turn around, return to starting position. Here we go. Now the only other object in the room is the scratching post, so the kitty scratching post has these little cubby holes for the cats to relax in, so let's have a look at the scratching post. So we kneel down, and lo and behold, inside, if you can see it, it's kind of dark in there, but there's the key. So of course we pick up the key, and now there's a little FMV of me picking up the key. Oh dear, I'm gonna clutch it, I'm gonna hold it, I'm gonna fondle it, and then get back up to standing position. And now we can go into the massivest inventory window ever. This took literally 30 seconds to put together. Anyway, we can now take the key here, and we can put that in the door, and it's actually harder than it looks to, get a key inside a keyhole when you're holding a camera with the other hand. I'm just saying. So anyway, here we go. Inside my office, thumbs up, hooray, we win. Welcome to AGS. The first thing we do, of course, is to start Adventure Game Studio. But that's not really the first thing we do, actually. The first thing we do is we shoot the video that we need. And to shoot the video, what I did really was just use my my phone here, my little piece of shit Alcatel idle phone, and just film it, hold it like this and just walk down a hallway and rattle some doorknobs and shit. Now, shooting an FMV game means that you need a lot more planning than you would if you were making a third-person adventure game, because you need to know what scenes are in the game and you have to go out and shoot them, and then you come back to Adventure Game Studio and start putting them in. Whereas with a third-person adventure, if there's a little scene missing, if the characters have to have some sort of dialogue here and there that you weren't quite planning to in the first place, you can just sort of put it in. You've already got your character sprites, it's just a matter of walking them over to a certain place and initiate some dialogue. With an FMV game, you sort of have to plan these things ahead. So you really need to have, your locations and what actions can be performed at these locations planned out in advance. But once you've shot all the video, then it's pretty simple to just stick that into Adventure Game Studio. And actually, your programming, your scripting, making the actual game in Adventure Game Studio becomes much easier, at least I feel. Now, one thing stands between this little Android phone and your adventure game, and that's the wonderful world of video codecs.
Boo, Wendy! Boo, Wendy Testaburger, boo!
Now, this thing shoots video in MP4. MP4 is a proprietary video format, so AGS can play it, but the machine that your players are going to play the game on will also have to have that codec installed in order to see the videos. This becomes a major clusterfucky head mess fuck thing of fuck that you don't want to deal with. So what you want to do is take all the video files out of the phone, you're going to need to do that anyway, get them on the computer, but then re-encode them in a different file format. And the tool of choice that I have found is this thing, the Oxalon Media Converter. I like this thing because even though it's a bit clunky and, it's got a few UI problems, it's free and it converts to a bewildering amount of formats, different formats that you want. And it does convert to the one format that AGS supports inbox, supports natively. It's not the one I have highlighted right now. It's not raw video. It's, like I said, it's OGG. It's free alternative to MP3s. And OGG also has a video codec, which confusingly is also .ogg as the extension. Now, when you build your game, these are the raw files for the game. Now, when you have your different MP4s here, and you convert those to OGG, then you'll have to go in and rename the extension. See here, you have to rename the extension to OGV, otherwise AGS won't play them. And furthermore, you have to copy them inside the main directory of the game you're working on. So as you can see here, we've got all this standard AGS junk going on here. These are, just the standard AGS files, and interspersed with all of this shit are my video files. And if you're making like a proper FMV game, you're gonna need a lot of FMV clips. So you need to get really organized, have some sort of file naming system that you're not gonna get totally lost in. I'm just saying. You also need to, shoot some still frames of the various scenes where you expect the player to, interact. And again, I just took some photos with this thing and then resized them to 1280 by 720 so that, the resolution of the backgrounds match the resolution of the video. Now we have everything we need and we can go into Adventure Game Studio and actually make this game. We click Start New Game and we go for the BASS style. Again, because this cuts down on writing and it's a lot easier to work with, really. But of course I have, as you saw, taken the liberty of pre-baking the FMV game in question. Now, the first thing, of course, we do is we go in and we remove all the characters, all the views, all the rooms that are in there already, and the inventory items and all that. Just clear that shit out of the way, and even inside the sprites, just clear away all that shit. We don't need it. It's just going to take up space in the end. And this is going to be a space-intensive game because, again, FMV. Okay, so with a relatively empty world to build our game in, we're going to start putting in the rooms. Now, the first room that we're in is this room with the closet and the scratching post and the door. Now, you'll have to forgive me, the laptop's resolution is quite small, so the 1280 by 720 picture is actually really hard to work with in this resolution, but yeah, I'll make it work. Pretty much everything that happens here has to do with hotspots. We don't have to place objects in the world unless we do something fancy, like, say, if we go into the close-up here where you have the key, you could have gone into Photoshop and, cut out the key and made that into a transparent image, which you could have then placed as an object in the screen so that, when you click on it, you play the little video of someone picking up the key, but then you show the screen and now the key has disappeared. You take away the, you make the object not visible. All of this shit I explained in the video on Tuesday, so that's really, I'm not going to waste time doing that here. What I've done is basically just work with hotspots. Every time you click a hotspot, you tell AGS to play a video sequence. And what happens when you click on the hotspot and you go into the actions here, we've got interact and look. Now, even that might be overkill for a standard FMV. Remember Phantasmagoria and all of these games that have like single click interfaces. There are no, right mouse button to examine, left mouse button to do anything. You could just have a single click interface. And in that case, you would not differentiate between, interact and look. You would simply define any click on hotspot, whether it's right mouse button or left mouse button. If something happens to click on this hotspot, then do something. Now, for this experiment, I have actually gone in and defined both interact and look. because I'm just weird that way. Now, if we go into the interact script for this key lying in the scratching post, you'll see here that when you interact with the key, it's going to play this video. Now, the syntax of this is play video and then the file name of the video in these quotation marks. And this is why I said you need a good system for naming your different video files and such, because this is going to get confusing in a hurry. Now, for this room, you only have one video clip to play, and that's me picking up the key. But in any given, FMV game, you're gonna have a ton of different FMVs of just the character turning around or the character walking up to something and examining it and all this stuff. If you have a conversation tree, holy but Jesus, you're gonna have a ton of video clips. So really get this shit right. Now the next bit here tells AGS if the player is able to skip the video sequence by clicking the mouse button or pressing the keyboard. And actually there are different options here. Either they can skip it with any key on the keyboard but not the mouse, or with any keyboard or a mouse button, or they can only skip it with the escape key, or they cannot skip it at all. The bastard setting. The number that comes after here actually determines what AGS is going to do with the video file, how it's going to play it, because you could ostensibly have some video clips in the game that are not in the correct resolution, or that you want to mute so that the game audio, the music, will continue under it and such. This is what that number does. 0 means that the video will be played at its original size with the audio. And it says AVI audio, don't worry about that. It's just the audio that the movie clip was born with. 1 means that the video will be stretched to the full screen with the appropriate aspect ratio. This is useful if you have some video clips that are not in the same resolution as the backgrounds in the game. That wasn't a worry for me because I knew that my backgrounds were 1280 by 720 and the video clips were in the same resolution. So I just put in a 0, a big fat 0 at the end of, at the end of this thing. Boom, 0. That just means it's just going to disregard all the video's native settings and just play it at the game's resolution. Fine, you're up and running. Now, once the player has clicked on it, on the key, we add the inventory item to the player's inventory. This I covered in Tuesday's video. And we take the player back to the original room, which is room 1. You might put in a check here that says if you try and click on the scratching post again and you already have the key, then you film another sequence where you bend down and there's not a key in there and you go, oh wait, I already picked up the key. This is the part of the code that checks whether the player has the inventory. If he has, then it just displays I already took the key. So it won't play the video of me bending down to see that there's a key in there, because I couldn't be bothered to film an extra sequence of me bending down where there wasn't a key. Because you really have to economize with how much video you're gonna shoot. Because it gets, look at a game like Gabriel Knight 2, for instance. There's so much video in there that players just skip, that they just roll on by. It's not interesting in the least to see Gabriel walk over, open the fucking drawer and have a look inside and go, oh my god. You just want, I think like Chris Jones and Aaron Khanna said in that interview with Backseat Designers, those are such nice guys. FMV should be a reward. It shouldn't just be, oh good, there's another video sequence, hoo-ha. Anyway, if the player does not have the key, that would be this, then it plays the video of me bend down to see the key video. You can skip that at any time by clicking the mouse button or pressing any key, and AGS will disregard the video's original settings and just play it at the game's resolution. Cool. And it'll change room to room number 2, which is the close-up. Now, anytime the screen changes, that is a new room. So you're going to end up with a lot of rooms. Now, just picture, for instance, if you were able to walk down the hallway. Now you're going to see, now you're actually seeing how the game looks when I, test it inside of AGS instead of running it and compiled. You get these black borders on each side of it. The aspect ratio is all fucked up, and it fixes itself once you actually compile the game. Now, just picture me actually being able to, walk down the stairs, which are over here to the left, and continue around the house. You'd have to have, different rooms for each step of the way, each node, as it were. AGS is not like, games like Scratches or Black Dahlia or something, where you have this 360 degree look. You can look around with the mouse. That's not how AGS works. A room is just a static room. So you've got that limitation to work with. Every time you want the player to, for instance, turn around, you would have, to the left here, you would maybe have an FMV clip of, the camera panning left, and then you'd have a new room. Player facing left. So you're gonna wind up with a lot of rooms, and you're gonna wind up with a lot of video clips. So again, file system, having a good file system is really important. And folders, you're gonna want folders inside of your AGS thing here. Now you can make new folders for rooms. You can have like starting bits, and then you can organize the rooms in these folders so you don't get too confused. So you can have like an area that have, like, let's say the upstairs landing has a left and a right and a front, dead center view. So you actually have 3 different rooms. The player can turn either left, face straight forward, or turn right. Those are 3 different rooms, and maybe there are some close-ups in those different rooms. So those are, even more separate rooms, and you end up with a lot of fucking rooms. So, organizing it in folders is just a really, really good idea. Now, lastly, I want to show you something that you may have noticed, and that was when I moved the mouse over a hotspot in the game, the game's cursor actually changed appearance. Like you see here, if I move it over the closet, it actually changes. Well, first of all, the mouse cursors themselves are sprites, like everything else in AGS. I've uploaded these 2 new cursors. We've got the one with the white border around it and the red border around it. This is the highlight cursor, this is the normal cursor. So you've got the sprites, you got the actual, visual cursor going, but now we have to put that into the game. Over here, we've got mouse cursors. There we go. You unfold the mouse cursor thing. Now, the template, the BASS template, uses this one, the look at, for all of its standard cursory things. You'll notice all of these other cursors, walk to, interact, talk to, use inventory, all of this shit. Don't need it. The look at mouse cursor has this image that I put in here, image 14. That corresponds to the sprite that I uploaded. It has number 14 here. Good. Now, how do I get it to highlight? Well, up here you've got animate and animate only on hotspots. If you set those to true, then AGS will animate the cursor when it moves over a hotspot. And technically you can do an animated cursor that actually, like spins around or does whatever. You just upload the individual frames of that animation and you put it into a view. Now, recall Tuesday's video, views are for characters and animation and all of this shit. But it could also be for, animating a cursor. So I've got cursor highlight, which is my view here. I've just created a single frame, and that's the frame that turns it red. Now, if I had an animated cursor, I could create new frames and put in, the different animation frames in this thing. I'm not going to do that. I just have this one cursor. And over here in my cursor settings, the view is 2. That corresponds to cursor highlight here. So whenever I animate the cursor, it'll only animate over a hotspot, and then it'll use this view. Excellent. So that is pretty much it. Now the last thing I will tell you is how to do dialogues with FMV clips in them. I didn't actually do a dialogue thing for this game, but I'll quickly show you how to do that. Again, recall from Tuesday's video how dialogues actually work. You create some sort of option, something that the character can say, like... Now, instead of writing out the script like we used to, instead of doing this, we just put in a tab, and now we get to actually write scripting code, like standard AGS scripting code. That means we can do play video, and then whatever the file name is, there you go. So now, instead of running a text script like your standard Sierra LucasArtsy type dialogues, you just have a video that plays of whatever happens during this conversation and or this conversation branch. And once this is done, you can still turn off the different options in this dialogue tree and turn on other options, exit the conversation, all of this shit. This putting in a tab here means that you get to actually write in genuine AGS scripting code. You can also use this to, give the player inventory items and so on and so forth. So that's how you do a dialogue that's full of FMV clips. Now, really, that should be enough to get you started. That should be enough to get you started making your own FMV game. Like I said, planning is the most important thing. Plan out what the story is, what your locations are, and what different types of interactions is the player going to be doing at those locations, and hopefully not stutter as much, because it's a bitch to realize that. I just wish that you could do that, and then we have to go and shoot that out, wherever that location is. So really, have like a movie production, have a shooting schedule with all the different interactions that can happen on each different location and all of this stuff. But once you've got that, then actually putting it into AGS is dead easy, as you saw. The only little hurdle is that you have to convert all the video clips into this OGV format that AGS and every computer in the world will understand natively, instead of having to dick around with codecs and such. Codecs are bad, very bad.
Boo, Wendy.
Now, if you want to get really full-on technical with this shit, you could shoot it with a real camera, and you could edit the footage in Adobe Premiere and do like really cool FMV stuff instead of just running around with your fucking smartphone. But I just mentioned the smartphone thing because technically you can do an FMV with just your phone and your laptop, or an FMV game, I should say. Now, I hope you will all have fun with Adventure Jam 2017. I know I will. I can't tell you yet what type of game I'm going to make, be it third person, be it an FMV, be it first person, be it third person. The times they will have to tell. That is the worst Bob Dylan anyone has ever done. Anyway, so yes, please like, subscribe, do whatever you kids do. Just leave me a comment if you have any problems. I'm not an expert at AGS. In fact, I'm quite terrible at it. But I'm just a beginner like you. But I just figured this stuff out, and I want to pass on my knowledge. But please don't be afraid to leave me a comment. I will put you in touch with people who can actually help you if I can't help you in the comments. So please leave me a comment. Actually, in the comments, leave me links to games that you make. If you found my tutorials useful, just leave me leave your game in the comments. Leave your game in the comments. Leave your game in the comments. I'd love to take a look at them. So yes, thank you, and I will see you around the Chrono Stream.